Hey friends, welcome to my new training on somatic business secrets. So what I'm going to share with you today are the 4 powerful shifts that allowed me to scale and grow my business with a lot more ease, a lot more simplicity, and without essentially like doubting myself or selling out my soul. For many of us, the idea that growing our business and enrolling ideal clients, making money can be easeful, it can be filled with delight and freedom. For a lot of us, that seems like a pipe dream. Some kind of lie that business gurus tell us to get us to buy their overpriced program. And so I wanted to kind of do this training to kind of share like what has been true for me, because the truth is that over the last few years, I have experienced consistent growth, both in how many clients I hold, but also in profit in my business. And I was telling a friend of mine yesterday that right now is the time in my life where I've had the most clients. And weirdly, it's also the time in my life where I've had the most freedom and spaciousness. And that is not automatically because I suddenly went from doing one-on-one to doing group. I still do a ton of one-on-one. Right now, most of my clients still get one-on-one sessions with me every month or just about every month. So what it got me to think, like, what's happened? Because if you would have told me, a year ago, 2 years ago, that I would be holding the kind of business I have now, automatically I would have felt overwhelmed. Automatically, I would have felt that the only way for me to have the business I currently have would be to sacrifice my life for it, and would be for me to be frazzled and to essentially have my entire life be about work, work, work. And it's just not the truth. So I'm going to share with you 4 shifts that have worked for me and have also made a big difference for my clients. Before I jump into that, I want to take a minute to introduce myself in case you're new here. Hi, I'm Ilsa. I'm very glad that you found one of my trainings. Welcome. By the way, feel free to say hi to me. Let me know where you're watching this from. Let me know what's resonating for you or what's coming up for you during this training. I would love to hear, and I will respond back. So a little bit about me. On a personal level, I'm a total spiritual nerd. I'm a bookworm. I'm an introvert bordering on hermit, if you ask my husband. I'm a nature lover. I live a pretty quiet, maybe even a little boring, but deeply satisfying life with my husband and our 2 dogs in Boulder, Colorado. That's me, kind of in a nutshell. Professionally, for the last 22 plus years, I've worked with hundreds of clients, maybe more, as a psychotherapist, a healer, an expansion expert, a strategist. I essentially marry nervous system and brain rewiring work with energy, identity, strategy to help entrepreneurs, leaders, business owners kind of tame any kind of internal and external chaos that's showing up in their lives and in their business, and help them dissolve resistance so that they can rewire themselves, their lives, their business for easeful growth, for consistent results, for exciting new levels of personal and financial freedom. Because in the end, that's what it's about. It's about emotional and financial freedom. So if this sounds like you, and if this sounds what you would like to create and have in your life and in your business, then please check out the description of this training. I've put a couple different options, 3 options of how you and I can go further and deeper, some paid, some free. All right, let's get started. So 4 shifts to more client and cash flow, and to scaling and growing your business in a way that is going to feel significantly more easeful and nourishing to your body, your soul, as well as your bank account. So what I'm going to do in this training is I'm going to start with the strategy piece, kind of like the tangible things that made a lot of difference for me, and that I talk with my clients around and create in their own business. And then we're going to move into more of the internal shifts that are necessary. So shift number one, you have to focus on what makes you different and unique in your business, in your body of work, compared to everybody else who does something similar. And I call that your golden thread. And if you've watched a number of my trainings, you've probably heard me mention it because it is a core aspect of making our visibility work, making marketing work, and even making selling our offers and our products be a lot easier with a lot less resistance from potential clients. So your golden thread is essentially the one thing that sets you apart from your competition. It also disrupts the status quo in your field because oftentimes it's going to disrupt by bringing in another perspective. And because of that, it's going to not only set you apart and it's going to shift beliefs, but because of that, it's going to position you as an authority, as a thought leader, as a fresh new voice in your field, in your industry. The other great thing about having a golden thread, and I'm going to get a little more detail as to what that is, but a golden thread is essentially going to explain to your ideal clients why they have struggled in the past, why they haven't gotten the results they wanted with other mentors or modalities, or why it didn't go as deep as they wanted. Essentially, a golden thread kind of like position your work as the missing link that they have been looking for. Oftentimes when clients will tell me, well, how do I know what my golden thread is? One of the first thing I ask them is, what do you want to become known for and in demand for? So you're not just a business mentor, you're not just a healer. And by the way, your golden thread is not your niche. It's not who you work with or the problem you solve automatically. Your golden thread is how you do it differently from your competition. So for example, for me, I might solve a lot of the same problems that other business mentors are. I help clients make more money. I help clients design strategies, campaigns, messaging that is in total alignment and creates results. But I do it from a completely different perspective. My golden thread is the importance of expanding your nervous system capacity so that you feel safe receiving and holding more, and calibrating your body to the results you want so that creating what you want actually feels normal, it feels natural, it feels expected. And when you have those two things, essentially when your body is on board and your body is a partner in your business and your nervous system has the capacity to hold the results you want, essentially what happens is your resistance dissolves. And all those self-sabotage patterns that used to get in the way start to melt away because you're no longer in resistance. You're no longer afraid of actually creating the results you want. So you can see how this is a very unique way that I help my clients scale, that I help my client essentially feel more comfortable with more visibility, feel more comfortable with more money, feel more comfortable with more clients, feel more comfortable with raising their prices or with boldly stating the results they create. Now, that doesn't mean that when I'm working with clients, we're not also, especially in the one-to-one setting, we're not being very custom in terms of what that looks like in their business and how do they shift this or that in their business. But when it comes to my marketing, when it comes to even my offer, it really is about becoming the version of you who gets to have it all and gets to have it all with ease. So that's one example. So your golden thread isn't your niche. It's how you do it different, and it's the unique kind of direction or positioning that you take that most of the people in your industry are not talking about. They have no idea about. And that's why people are not getting results in their container. Like, so for example, for me, most people in big, I've been in a lot of different kinds of businesses, and most people are not getting results in those training. Like, I think the statistics, it's something like 5% of people um, in coaching incubators actually get the results they were promised. Some like ridiculous small amount. From my perspective, partially the reason that is because their body's not calibrated to the results they want. Their nervous system doesn't know how to actually show up and receive the results they want in a way that feels easeful, so they block it. So once you have your golden thread, you're going to kind of make it the undercurrent of everything you do. It's going to show up and be kind of like the foundation of your message. It's going to show up in your marketing. Like, even like, for example, a training like this, I'm still bringing the nervous system in small ways. I just did it right now in creating an example for you. At some point, I think it's shift number 4, I'm going to actually talk about it and the importance of that. So even if I'm doing a training that seems to not be about the nervous system, I'm going to make sure to bring the nervous system and the body in the conversation. So your golden thread is going to be weaved through everything you do, your message, your marketing, your mission, your offers, what you talk about. And you're going to keep bringing it up until you become known for that, until people see you as that slightly different way of looking and achieving results. Having a golden thread deeply simplifies things for you and your audience, because now you know what to keep talking about and what to focus on as you're creating offers, as you're creating copy, as you're creating content. Literally, your golden thread not only becomes a compass, kind of letting you know if you're in alignment or not with what you're selling and what you're doing and your positioning, but it also becomes a frame of reference or a lens, a perspective through which you look at everything. So, for example, for me in my program, every practice I teach is seen through the lens of nervous system expansion. Every experiment or identity shifting lesson that I teach is looked at through the perspective of, even if we're talking about messaging, even if we're talking about visibility, even if we're talking about authenticity, I'm always going to bring it back in some small way to what needs to happen in here so you can hold that. Or even when I talk to a client about their business or their financial circumstance, about their offers, their marketing strategy, their campaign, their launch style, we're either going to make sure that that campaign, that offer, that launch style, that pricing is filtered and in partnership and alignment with their nervous system. And if it isn't, we're either going to shift the strategy or we're going to rewire the nervous system. Like, so for example, if I have somebody who comes to me and they're like, I really want to get more visible, I want to create videos, I want to use social media in a more tangible way, but like I have this block to doing that. If you have a strategy you feel like is your strategy and you really want to do that, but something in here doesn't feel safe doing that, then we're going to rewire what's happening in here so that you can take action with a lot more ease. So we're either shifting the strategy to align with your body, or we're shifting your body and your wiring to align with the direction you want to take in your business. But either way, we need to make sure that your body, your nervous system is on board with what it is that you want to create. So with a golden thread, everything you do with your marketing and with your client is going to start being seen through that lens. And it's going to be what creates a real sense of conviction for you, a real simplicity on how to work with people and how your work is different than any other mentor or business coach. It's what's happening with my clients, right? Like by the time they work with me, oftentimes they've worked with other mentors, but they've never worked and had the results and the experience that they're having with me because my work is completely different. In terms of your audience, when you have a golden thread, it's going to make it very clear to people how you're different, which will lead to partnerships, it will lead to collaborations, it will lead to invitations to speak, invitations to bring a perspective, whether it's at a conference, whether it's at somebody's mastermind, whether it's in somebody's group where they actually want you to teach because what you're doing is different than what they're doing. And it's also going to create a sort of desire for clients to work with you because it's completely new for them and it answers some inner questions that they had about their own ability to create the results that they have. Suddenly, you remove some of the shame that your clients or potential clients have had about not creating results, and you start to make them feel maybe they haven't created results because they didn't have the right pathway that was working for them. So that's your first shift. Find your golden thread and really make it a foundation, a thread, something that's weaved through everything that you do so you can get known as that. All right, now let's move on to shift number 2, which is also more around strategy. And you've probably heard me mention that as well, but practicing authenticity and audacity marketing. So what do I mean by that? It's basically a combo of being truly you and making sure that you're growing your business, that you're making decisions in your business, that you're showing up as you. That's the authenticity piece, right? And then while also being as bold as you dare in your marketing. That's the audacity piece. So the authenticity piece is about dropping the mask, dropping the posturing, having the courage to be you, having the courage to do it your way, being willing to be imperfect and to show up in a way that feels nourishing to you and it feels right to you in all aspects of your business, including sharing that to some degree with people. Not only are you showing up as you, but you're sharing the truth of you and what's going on with you. And I think the authenticity piece is so necessary, powerful, because if your business doesn't feel like you, and if it doesn't nourish you, you will sabotage and resist its growth. So even when we're talking about scaling, like scaling looks very different to everybody. I'm going to give you a personal example. So I started out solely in private practice, doing only one-on-one. And then I got booked out and I needed to just do something different. And I literally went from one extreme to the other, where I kind of more or less shut down my private practice and didn't offer a whole lot of one-on-ones anymore and created a group program. And everything I did was in group. And I did that for about a year and I didn't like it. I enrolled a bunch of clients at the beginning and then I felt disconnected from people. Like it felt like a lot of work. I was putting a lot of effort creating like different trainings and retreats every week. And it was actually more work and took just as much time for less money than doing my one-on-one work. And for me, it felt less nourishing. But I needed to do that to realize that that wasn't totally, completely my way, at least at that juncture. And then I found a middle road where I didn't give up on the group. I kept the group. I just tweaked it a little bit to feel more easeful, to feel more like me. And then I started offering everybody in my group was going to get at least one-on-one a month so that I could curate the process to them, so I could see what's working for them, what's not working for them, and really have my thumb on their pulse in terms of what was working and what was not. And that has basically been my business model for years. Now I'm back to this place where I'm totally kind of like full in terms of one-on-one, and the only way to scale is to offer an aspect of my work that is potentially group only or with even less one-on-one, and maybe offering people one-off one-on-one here and there when they need it. But as long as I wasn't doing what felt right for me and I didn't find a way to scale that felt good for me, I couldn't scale. It wasn't working. So that's one aspect of authenticity. It really has to feel and look like you, and it has to feel good to you. It's for you, by you, and like you. Now, the other piece of authenticity can be about being an open book, especially in your marketing, in your own process, sharing your behind the scenes, both in your business and in your life, so that people can get a sense of who you are, both as a professional, but also as a human. And you can be both, have that sense of authority, but also a sense of relatability. And I'll be fully honest, that is not something that I'm great at. I'm great at making my business authentic to me, like in what it looks like and the decisions I make. I am not great at sharing about my own personal experience, my behind the scene. I do a little bit of it in these trainings, like I just shared with you right now, but it's not really my cup of tea to share what I'm doing on the weekend or like things like that. I'm just not great at it. And it's something I'm working on. We are all works in progress. For me, I'm really comfortable in my professional identity. I'm really comfortable holding space with clients. I'm really comfortable teaching. I'm really comfortable helping people transform. I am less good at sharing my human life and my human side, my behind the scenes. At least that's in my marketing. I think my clients see a lot more of it because I feel really comfortable, and there is this sense of I know them, and so it's safe for them to know me. It's something I'm working on in my regular marketing. So that was authenticity. Now let's talk about audacity. I love that word, audacity. Something that I've worked a lot on too. It's like slowly moving out of being humble and starting to slowly have a little bit more audacity in how I talk about my work and the results I get my clients and all of that. Audacity is about having the courage to be bold, to share openly how great, how unique, how transformational your work is. It's the ability to share your own wins, your clients' wins. Audacity, to some degree, is realizing that your work comes through you, but is not automatically yours, that you are actually the ambassador of your body of work. It was given to you to put out there into the world. And it's your job to represent it and to talk about it in a way that really highlights it and grabs attention and let people know about it and know what is possible for them if they dive in and they give this body of work a try. So audacity is the ability for you to boldly claim and speak to the power of the work that you do and the transformation that becomes possible to you, to potential clients through it. And I think audacity right now is even more important than ever because the world is so unstable right now that people are looking for something that feels anchored. They're looking for a sense of conviction, groundedness, certainty. And if they don't sense that in how you talk about your work and what your work will do for them, they won't buy. If you don't believe in the power of your work, or you don't speak to the power of your work with true sovereignty, then people will sense your wobble and they will interpret, they will confuse your humility more than likely, the part of you that has been conditioned to not brag, to not talk about yourself too much. Those are things that we need to rewire in the nervous system because we feel shame. I felt shame around talking. Like recently, a month ago or so, I posted how one of my clients has had this dream of reaching 1 million in her business. And she essentially doubled her business in a year working with me. And this year she's going to not only hit the 1 million, but cross the 1 million. She's in line to make 1.2. And like, it just totally blew her mind. But it took like a lot, like I had to do some nervous system work about posting that because it felt like bragging, or it felt like it was her win and not my win. And who am I to talk about her win? Now, I didn't share her name or anything like that. Like, it's still her win. It's still private. But there was a place where I was part of that. I don't take credit for all the work that she did, but I was in partnership with her in creating that. And I have to be able to own that and be able to share that. And I have to meet myself and meet all the little parts of me who feel that if I get too big, if I talk too big, I'm going to be attacked, or I'm going to be criticized, or I'm going to be judged. And I had to find a way to feel safe within myself so that I could claim the power of my work openly. So if you're hanging on too much to humility, and there's like this conditioning of humility inside you, or maybe fear, like, I don't want to talk about a client's success because what if I can't get that same success for someone else? Like, if there's humility or fear within you in terms of how you talk about and you put your work forward, your people are going to feel that fear, that humility, and they're going to interpret it as doubt, and they will not feel secure moving forward or investing. And when you can't step into that level of audacity, not only do you hurt your potential client who will miss out on this work and would have probably been transformed in some powerful way through your work, you also hurt your own body of work, this gift that was given to you by the universe to put out there in the world. You hurt yourself because you don't get to share and what you're doing with more people, and you hurt your financial bottom line. You hurt your financial freedom. So audacity is a form of service. You're serving the people by speaking really cleanly and clearly about your work, but not like a mouse, like a freaking lion, right? And you're really also learning to unbind, to dissolve the conditioning of fear, of oppression, of shame that most of us carry within us. So you're doing it for yourself, and you're doing it for the world, because the world needs your work, and you need to step into who you were always meant to be. So in conclusion to this second shift, authenticity builds the sense that people know you, like you, they can relate to you, and it essentially builds what we call personal trust. Now, the audacity piece allows people to sense your conviction, your certainty, your authority in your work, and it allows your people to start to trust that you can help them, that you are the person for them, that what you're sharing is going to support them in some way, shape, or form. So authenticity builds personal trust. Audacity builds professional trust. Shift number 3, you have to shift your relationship to money and wanting money. One of the things that I often say is that the fastest way to make money is to actually not focus on it. Essentially, money can't be your main focus, the main reason that you are trying to scale your business or grow your business. And the reason money can't be your main focus is because usually when money is your main focus, it comes from some kind of constriction. And it creates some kind of contraction in you, but it also starts to have that faint smell of pushy, worried, graspy energy that will repel clients. Like essentially, it forces you to step out of service. Money is a ripple. It is a delightful outcome and a happy symptom of being in complete alignment, of being in flow, of having your identity, your nervous system anchored in trust and in expansion. Money is what naturally comes to you when you fall in love with serving people and transforming their lives. It's not something you focus on, it's a byproduct of doing good work. In some way, it's a byproduct of those first two things, those first two shifts that I talked about. It's a byproduct of knowing exactly what your work is about and how you're different. It's a byproduct of being truly yourself and creating a business that is totally authentic to you and being audacious in how you talk about your work. You have those two things and you feel really alive with serving people and with putting this work out into the world, and money will come. It is inevitable. I don't know if you can hear my dog is like snoring up a storm. So what we have to be careful is that how we're moving through our business doesn't come from some level of lack or scarcity. Attracting clients, making more sales, growing your offers or your containers is a dance between taking consistent aligned action, serving your heart out, and being really open and anchored in trust. What I find is that when we focus on money, or money is our focus, that focus comes from scarcity. It comes from needing to be validated in some ways. It comes from actually feeling unsafe and insecure and wanting something to shift in our financial life so that we can feel safe and secure. And that lack, that sense of scarcity, that sense of insecurity creates friction, both internal friction, meaning like we have resistance, we're sabotaging, we're in contraction, but also external friction. People can sense that something's not quite open and expanded about us. And so they feel wobbly about working with us. So in this third shift, your work is to let go of money as a goal altogether and to look at where you've made money represent something it has no business representing, like worthiness, like safety, like self-worth. Well, I guess that's worthiness, like validation, like the need to feel accomplished or to prove something, either to yourself or to someone else. Find where your relationship with money isn't clean. It's not open, it's not relaxed, it's not free. And start to really work on that so that receiving money actually feels nourishing rather than some degree of shaming or some degree of guilt around it. So our big work is to find our ground of safety, to find our center, to find our anchor, to trust, and to the knowing that we're meant to do this, and then release money altogether and move from that anchor, move from that trust, move from that knowing, move from that sense of inner safety and inner groundedness, because that is sovereignty. Just know that any action, any decision that you make or you take from lack creates results that are lacking. Let me say that again. Any action or decision that comes from lack will create results that are lacking. This is the lesson here. If you want freedom and confidence, including financial freedom and confidence, you have to move from freedom and confidence. Freedom and confidence. Just created a new word. If you want a sense of feeling safe and secure, then you have to move from feeling safe and secure. As my mentor always says, the seed defines the fruit. So that's your third shift. Look at your relationship with money and stop making it about money. Shift number 4, my favorite topic in the whole wild world. I'm sure you can imagine what it is. You have to expand your internal capacity to hold more. You cannot create 500K or $1 million in your business from 50K or 6-figure you. Your identity and your capacity are literally neck and neck. So you either work on expanding your identity, and that will kind of slowly expand your capacity, or you work on expanding your capacity, and that will shift your identity. But essentially, the version of you who gets to make 500K, $1 million or more in your business is a 500K, $1 million or more self. And by the way, that's what we do in my program, right? We work both on the body and we work on the identity. The practices are about the body mostly, and then the expansion experiments are about the identity. So we're shifting capacity from both levels and together. Trying to take on too much or to grow too fast without having expanded your own capacity will always lead to either growth feeling threatening and overwhelming and some degree of burnout, or it will lead to resistance and blocking it, or both. Sometimes it leads to the burnout first, and then the whole thing falls apart and nothing's working. You would be surprised how many of my clients will come to me and say, I want more clients, I want more visibility, I want more money. And then when we start to play around with that and dig in there, we find all these parts that actually feel unsafe, not ready, not capable. All these parts are literally constricting and contracting at the idea of being seen in a bigger way, at the idea of bringing in more money, more clients. And then they wonder why it hasn't worked. Well, it hasn't worked because you've been doing all the things from the wrong identity, and you've been doing all the things from a place in you that actually doesn't feel safe receiving it or allowing it to happen. It's not a strategy issue, it's a capacity issue. A lot of time, when you're not making the money you want to make, you're not getting the clients or the deals or the opportunities you want to get, you're not reaching the goals that you desire, it's not your strategy. It's your capacity and your identity. And they're kind of come together, right? So at some level, if something in you doesn't feel ready, doesn't feel like you have the space, the energy, the time, the ability to receive and hold what you want with ease, aka without sacrifice, without paying for it in some way, without giving up your life for it, you will block it, sabotage it, resist it. You might still be doing all the work and believing consciously that you want all of that, but your results are going to end up being slow. They're going to end up being kind of constricted and not very exciting. And that's because at some deep fundamental level, you are actually not available for more. You're not open to receiving because something in you feels like growth is a threat. More is going to come at too high of a cost. One of the things I want you to realize is that this entire life is an intelligent living system. And if at some subtle level you are afraid of growth, you see momentum and expansion as a threat or as something you're not worthy or ready for, your audience will sense it because they're part of that living system. In the deep, in the depths, we're kind of like those aspen groves. We might look like individual trees, but we're connected in the root system. In the deep, we are connected and we feel each other through facial features, through like there is such a thing as nervous system co-regulation. Like literally, like this thing where like you enter a room and you can feel when somebody's pissed, even though they try to act like they're not pissed, but you can sense it. It's not you automatically sensing it. It's your body. It's that intelligence within that is connected to the whole system. The entirety of life is listening for and seeing the truth of you and what you really want more than you listen and see your own truth. Your external life is literally life's response, people's response to what's internally happening within you. Your external life is often a mirror of what's happening within you in the hidden realms. And so what the capacity work does is it gets you to like start getting curious. Okay, if I'm not getting this goal, if I'm not getting this results, what about it is a no for me? Or what part of me doesn't feel safe with it? And then you can actually do the work where the work fucking matters. Because the work out there doesn't matter. It's the work in here that matters, at least as a foundation. I sometimes refer to those as hidden desires. So we say we want one thing, like I want more client, but in the depth, in the unconscious, we actually want something else like space to breathe or to be left alone. And by the way, no judgment here at all, because as an introvert, as someone who is sensitive, this has been one of my biggest battles. It's extremely familiar. Like that thing I just said, oh, we want more client, but like when we go in deep, we just want space to breathe and we want to be left alone. That's me. There's always a part of me in here that wants to hide, that wants people to leave me alone, that doesn't want more clients. And then there's all the other parts that do. But here's the thing you have to understand. We are kind of like a chain. It's always the weakest link. It's always the part of us that is most afraid, most wounded, that leads. So you want to kind of play around with like checking inside. And now we're back to authenticity, right? Like checking inside what's happening. Like, this is why I do the work I do, because it started with me. And I think most of us do that. We create the work we needed. See what I did there? A little bit of authenticity marketing, sharing my behind the scenes. So if you feel resistance, if you feel like you should be further ahead by now, then your first step is to look at what's happening inside. Why might you be resisting the very results you are working so hard to create? What are you afraid of? What part of you is afraid that this result will come at too high of a cost? Maybe you're afraid that you will lose your freedom, or you'll become overwhelmed if you go. Maybe you're afraid that you'll be judged or criticized or abandoned by friends or family if you start making more money. Maybe you're afraid that you'll be humiliated if you fail. Maybe there is a worry in there that people might turn on you if you dare to speak up boldly about your unique path, or that you won't be able to deliver, or a client will turn on you if they don't get the exact results that they wanted. Maybe you're afraid that your team will screw up and you'll be left cleaning up the mess. If you're not growing, notice what's happening. And if you are at the beginning of your growth, then do that too, because that's the shit that's going to get in your way. So if you imagine yourself with a much bigger business, with more clients, more money, notice what happens in your body. Where are their contractions? Where are their worries? And actually meet those head on rather than dismissing them. When you imagine having what you want, where does it feel tight or heavy in your body? And when you stay with that contraction, with that fear, with that concern, with that, like, what's coming up for you? Like, if that tightness, that heaviness had words for you, what would it tell you about growing, about scaling? If in some unconscious way, having more visibility, more clients, more money, more opportunities, more team members feels like more equals more problems, you will block it. And that is a safety and capacity issue in your nervous system, which is why, for me, from my perspective, it is such a foundational part of being a powerful, successful leader and business owner. It's so damn important to recalibrate your nervous system and your body for the outcome you desire, to make sure that in here, what you want feels safe, feels enjoyable, feels natural, that no part of you doesn't feel ready. And like, as we're growing, it's really necessary for us to have the tools to level up, to be able to reset our energy when we fall off the wagon, so that we always have the capacity, more than enough space, more than enough bandwidth to hold what we desire with ease. That's what this is about. So there's the internal piece, and I've mentioned there's the external piece. If you're constricted, your potential clients will feel that constriction and it will repel them. As I like to say, people don't buy what you're selling. They buy the expansion they sense in you, that they want for themselves. They buy the expansion they sense is possible for them by working with you. You are an example of that expansion. Expansion is what sells. Your expansion is 80% of what creates your results. It's 80% of what will make your ability to scale with simplicity and with soul possible. And so I would warn that we need to put a chunk of our time and energy making sure that we're doing that work. You have to normalize in your body that more gets to be simple, that more gets to be easeful and spacious. If not, your brain will create a whole bunch of roadblocks. That's when there's doubt, overwhelm, you start to kill your momentum, you start to sabotage, procrastinate. Those are all symptoms of nervous system capacity constriction. Okay. So this is the invitation here. Whenever you find yourself back on the hamster wheel, you're caught up in some kind of old contracted pattern, you're feeling drained, you're feeling confused, frozen, anxious, overwhelmed, like nothing you're doing is working, or you don't know how to grow without sacrificing yourself, or you're pushing. Stop, center, come back to finding safety and groundedness in the now, and then start to look at what part of you doesn't feel ready, doesn't feel safe with more, and start to bring safety and support to that part of you so that you can start to increase your capacity. And if you're not clear on how to do that, I literally have all the damn tools you could ever need. Practices, expansion experiments to shift your identity. I have it all in my program. So let's connect. Let's do some work together. If you're curious on how to do that, just check the description of this training. You'll find 3 ways for us to go a little deeper. 2 are paid, and then 1 is a free option. I would love to put my 22 plus years of experience to work for you, to help you tame whatever chaos is going on in here or out here, and to unlock the life, the business, and the wealth that is possible for you. All right. Mwah. Thanks for still being here. I'll see you next week.